and welcome to the Salty Boys Podcast. This is a series dedicated to catching all of our listeners, new and old, up to speed with what we have been up to for the past way too long. We'll be taking an in-depth look at some of our characters, both players and NPCs, as well as a lot of our plot points that define the campaign and others that never made it on the air. So sit back, relax, and enjoy. And thank you for joining us. Hey everyone, welcome to the Salty Boys Podcast. I'm AR.
And I'm Skylar.
And we're here to bring you all up to speed with everything that's happened in this crazy podcast that we've been making for way too long.
This collection of episodes will focus around getting all of our listeners up to speed with everything that's happened here and how to sort through everything on our feed. Let's start at the beginning.
Saltmarsh, the origins. Way back in the day, we were trying to get a new D&D campaign back together. And by that, I mean, Skylar had asked us to, hey, do you want to do D&D? And I said, let's put my copy of Pro Tools to good use and make it a podcast. So let's walk through what happened early on.
So the content book, it started fairly innocuously. I had the Ghosts of Saltmarsh D&D campaign book. I thought, yeah, we'll just have a nice by-the-book campaign. We made a lot of shit up instead. So our first three characters and our first NPCs all play a huge role in the campaign. The first of which is the captain. One of our players didn't know his name for the better part of 6 episodes. Actually, probably longer. He probably doesn't know now if we asked him or put him on the spot. So we had the captain, sort of the social glue. Francis, who's a bit of a pyromaniac, moss-loving, photosynthetic life form. We had Big Nick, who was a changeling the whole time. And Mock, who was a muscle man that somehow became a priest, just loves violence. The first of our NPCs, Seamus McTavish, originally does not exist in the book. If you can search the cover to cover, you won't find Seamus McTavish. In the book, he's actually called Kreb Schenker, who's just a totally normal human man. Eggplant Boy, of course, does not exist, but we'll have to get into Atalatha and Eggplant Boy sort of together.
We have our characters. Now let's talk about what happens. So, like most great campaigns, we start off by not starting at all. The first thing we did was we stalled for some time in order to get the book and all that kind of good stuff up and running. We went out to another area in the book called the Drowned Forest. This is not related to the campaign. If you're following the book, you won't find this, but we rescued some dude in the Drowned Forest as a way to prove our mettle to the town. So we got there, prove our mettle, and they sent us on our quest. And along the way, to prove that mettle, one of our characters is introduced, which is Mock, who we talked about earlier. The dice roll that was provided for their relationship between Mock and the captain turns out to be a very central part of the campaign later on. So if you're listening through this, pay attention to that. After that Drowned Forest escapade, then we introduce our next player, which is Daffrin. We find him playing with a kite in a thunderstorm. His intelligence is bleed through from his handler. Where we meet Daffrin is at the beginning of the campaign book for Saltmarsh. We are saving the haunted house, or raiding it, whatever you want to say. Nothing unusual happens while scouring the house, other than Daffrin deciding to use his mace to open a door instead of the key that he found remarkably close by. And there was also a naked man named Ned Snakeshaft.
Honestly, pretty much by the book, the haunted house went, with the exception of Anton Aubergine, Eggplant Boy, losing his hand, which became somehow a major plot point later on. By the end, the raid goes according to plan. We add another NPC to the podcast who becomes central, who is Grem, the Hobgoblin.
Thank you for joining us on this in-depth episode. Please look forward to more of these in the future. We'll be doing some interviews with our players to kind of talk about where their characters started and where they ended up. Some of the ideas that led to the creation of those characters, as well as diving deeper into our plot, the homebrew stuff, and what we took from the books. Thanks for listening, everybody.